We're all familiar with the story of Pinocchio, right? A living puppet whose nose grows each time he tells a lie. But what if it grew whenever he killed instead? Not in the original story though, since he only kills Jiminy Cricket with a hammer, and that would be a really short video. But in Lies of P, you play as Pinocchio in all but name, simply referred to as Geppetto's puppet, or P. If you're familiar with the original story written by Carlo Collodi, you see references to it everywhere in the game. You even see his nose grow in two different ways whenever you tell a lie, through a portrait and through your own shadow. But this is a Souls-like, which means killing a whole lot of enemies is necessary to reach the end game. So what if the length of his schnoz increased whenever a puppet, human, or monster is killed?
Geppetto's puppet. We need your help.
Before we get into the game, the first thing we need to figure out is how much his nose grows. The problem is, the original story, or none of the movies, provide a solid, consistent figure to base this on. The one time we're given a length comes in Collodi's story when it's mentioned once, that his nose grows by the length of 2 fingers. This occurs when Pinocchio pulls off a hat trick of lies while talking to the fairy, but the second and third lies complicate things. Each successive lie makes the nose grow significantly more than the last time. Basically, every adaptation of Pinocchio shows this to be true as well, but the 1971 Italian version is the most faithful to Carlo's story, so I'm going to use that as my basis. The lying scene with the fairy plays out exactly as described in the book. His first lie sees a minimal increase, and since we know it's 2 fingers long, I went ahead and just measured my own index finger, which is 3 inches long. Doubling that gives us a 6-inch or 15.24 centimeter increase in nose length. When he drops that second lie, we see his nose get much longer. And thankfully, Pinocchio stays put in the same spot throughout the scene, so we get a pretty consistent look at how long his nose grows. This second lie makes his beak roughly 2 times longer, which would put it at around 12 inches long or just over 30 centimeters. Finally, the third lie makes his nose so big it's easily longer than the puppet himself. Basing it off where he's standing, we can see his nose grew about 3 times what it was before, putting it right around 36 inches or around 91.5 centimeters. But then after that, his nose is trimmed down by a bunch of woodpeckers, so we never see it get any longer than that. You can reasonably assume if he continued spewing lies, his nose would grow exponentially again and again at roughly 4 times, 5 times, 6 times the previous length, and so on and so forth. We don't know for certain if that's the case because we only ever see the growth rate reset after his nose is reduced in size. So for the sake of this video, we will assume the nose will continue to grow at the rate we saw before the woodpeckers trimmed his sniffer down. Not exactly the most scientific method, but whatever.
It was at this moment that he knew. He fucked up.
Finally, just a couple of ground rules. Since this is a Souls-like, that means enemies respawn anytime a Stargazer is used. I will not count enemies that have already been killed. And my own deaths won't be a factor in this video at all since lore-wise, P never really dies in the game. But if you're curious, I died a total of 72 times. So let's get into it.
You're the devil's puppet.
P is awakened by Sophia, this game's version of the blue fairy from the story. He picks up Jiminy right after, and Sophia directs P to Hotel Krat where she'll explain what's going on. The city has turned into a nightmare as puppets who are supposed to be friendly automatons have turned against the populace. At the same time, the citizens are dying en masse due to a plague known as the petrification disease, limiting the amount of people that can actually fight back against the puppets. Enter P, who arms himself with a weapon. I love doing bonk builds in these games, so I go the strength route and leave the train. There are a total of 45 enemies between us and Hotel Krat. The servant puppets are the most commonly seen enemy type, with 20 of them falling as a few others serve to offer up some variety. P faces his first boss as well, with the parade master puppet getting destroyed before he locates the hotel. And this is where things take a wild turn, because after only 45 kills, P's nose has become impossibly large. Without the fairy around to reduce its size, it very quickly gets out of control. P's nose goes from a mere 6 inches after that first kill outside the train, all the way to over 717 septendecillion inches after just 45 kills. How much is a septendecillion, do you ask? I certainly didn't know until recently. A septendecillion has 54 zeros in it. My flabber has been beyond gasted. Shit, I still don't believe it, and I expect comments to grill me for my math failure here, but the way it grows at an ever increasing rate based on the nose's current size makes P's nose get so large it stretches all the way through the Andromeda Galaxy and well past it. I quickly began learning new numbers here, and having to try and comprehend just how massive this actually is. The Andromeda Galaxy is quintillions of miles away. That's a mere 18 zeros at the end of that number. P's nose length, turned into miles, reduces it from 717 septendecillion inches to 11 sextillion miles. That's 51 zeros following, which means P's nose reaches well beyond the known universe. And he's doing this in less than an hour of playtime, by the way. This puppet suddenly becomes our key to intergalactic space travel by strapping people at the end of his nose and having him murder some puppets. Not exactly how the Krat space program was envisioned, but you have to work with what you got. This dumb little idea I had to make a regular kill count video more interesting completely knocked me off course of my original intention. I didn't think the nose would get this big. I thought maybe we'd see it get to be into the hundreds of thousands of miles long. Not big enough to get to the end of the fucking universe. I mean, check this out. By the time P reaches Geppetto and saves him from the mad donkey, he has a total of 99 kills. Just imagine this from Geppetto's point of view. He climbs out of the carriage and stares in horror as his best creation stands there with a nose that stretches 5 inches long. This exercise went so off the rails that Google Sheets just gave up at 171 kills, saying the number is too goddamn big to display within a single cell. That's before I even fight the puppet of the future inside the workshop. King's Flame Floco is only 184 kills into the game, and that's really where I felt like my build came together. I grabbed the big wrench head, slapped that sucker on the booster glaive handle, and absolutely wailed on puppets, humans, and carcasses alike with that weapon. Shit, we didn't even get to see the carcass enemy type before I became enraptured at the lunacy of P's nose. The petrification disease has gotten so bad that the alchemists began running experiments on people to find a cure, but instead turned some into monsters. If P's nose legit grew with each kill, they'd all stop what they are doing and divert their attention towards P's massive fucking schnoz. I even debated whether or not I should count the 32-dimensional butterflies found throughout the game, since they aren't standard enemies. But looking back at that question, it's just silly as shit now, since P's nose doesn't need that extra length. The hilarious part is if you wanted to argue whether or not to count puppets and carcasses as actual kills and just stick to the humans, his nose in inches would still grow to whatever the fuck this number is. Between the Stalkers and the Alchemists, P kills 82 humans starting at the Mad Donkey and ending with Simon Monis towards the end. But of course, the whole point of the game is that puppets are more than what we use them for, and contain their own set of emotions. So between them, humans, butterflies, and carcasses, P finished with 914 kills, with the final kill coming when P fights Geppetto's first attempt at bringing his son back. I have no idea how big his nose gets by this point in the game. I'm not smart enough to calculate that without help from my spreadsheet and the formulas involved, and clearly, the spreadsheet just gave up early on anyway. I am genuinely just so shocked at the result of this one little question I had while playing through this game. I've had this backlogged for a while, since I needed to do some research into Pinocchio's nose and the laws behind how it grows. Turns out there aren't really any laws, and I had to get a little creative to narrow it down. I never expected it to get so ridiculously large that some random alien civilization would watch as this mysterious thing stretches over their planet and beyond. If I completely miscalculated this, which is definitely a possibility, feel free to roast me, but I love the idea that P's nose is out there in another universe shish kebabbing a planet and whatever is beyond our own observable universe. This video didn't go exactly as planned. I thought about going back and doing a hard reset on how his nose grows. Maybe it sticks to the rule of 3 and does a small spurt, a longer growth, and then a larger increase after that, then reset back to the beginning. That would be way more manageable to keep track of, but I really think Pinocchio's nose would just keep going unless kept under control by other forces. Now, I really want to see a version of Pinocchio where he just rattles off lie after lie after lie, and his nose rockets forth into the atmosphere. Let me know your thoughts on P's ridiculously long nose, and of Lies of P in general. If you enjoy Souls-likes and haven't played it yet, definitely find the time to do it. You could slap FromSoft's name on it, and it would fit right in with the rest of their catalog. Thanks as always for watching. I'm King Deschain, signing off for now.